Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Things might be a little bit softer this morning. I'm trying out something especially for today. Good morning, M. Thank you for getting first. Good morning, Vanya. Thank you for getting third, proving once again that chat can't count. And good morning, Keeper. Thank you for getting second. Also proving that chat can't count. Good morning, M and Eliza Banana. Good morning, Moxie and Mitchie. Lovely and lovely Lilith. Good morning, Echo, and thank you for the kiss. And of course, the stretch. Good morning, Pinky. Love to see you, girl. Good morning, Psycho. Good morning, Venus. Persona 3 moment. What do you mean by that, Vanya? Good morning. Good morning, Spell. And good morning, Isabella. No sleep. Good morning, Grow. Do I sound alright? Can you all hear me fine? Or am I too soft? Too quiet? I'm doing good, Isabella. Oh, me. I've been up for a little bit, but I've been kind of goofing off all morning, messing with my audio a bit. I made myself a lovely, lovely juice. It had carrots and I don't know what you mean by that, Psycho. It had carrots and grapefruits and apples and ginger. It was a very, very delicious juice. Good for my belly. Moxie, please get some sleep. But I do tarot reading every once in a while. Good morning, Keeper of Fate. What are you doing awake so early? Oh, that's where Fate Magnet is from. Good morning, Fate. I noticed you followed when I was off stream. I was so confused. I got spooked. I was messing with my audio and suddenly I hear these stream noises go off. You got a suspicion. Well, it's a good suspicion to have. Apparently, I am Keeper's Oshi. Don't let them tell you any different. I am Keeper's Oshi. They are. They want to see me succeed more than anything else. Sleep is not for the weak. Sleep is to sleep. No longer Keeper, Keeper, Keeper. If that was true, I don't know. I don't think I can believe it. Oh no, where is my game capture? Oh, you are working so beautifully earlier. Are you gonna work now? There we go. Sleep is important, chat. But good morning. What were you streaming? And good morning to Nuki Mask. Let's see if you win. 3, 2, 1. No winners this time. Thank you. We're doing gaming ASMR this morning. Normally, I'd plan on having more ASMR throughout the week, but it turns out, chat, that I'm going to be on call this week, so my morning streams might be interrupted by work being like, hey, Gene, we think that you need to wake up and do some work. Them fuck-ass fuckers. Also, chat, I'm lost. I don't know why I'm in the ground. I don't remember what happened or how we got here. But we're here now. I think we just live in the ground now. I am a ground dweller from now on. Do I have any seeds? I do. How am I doing this morning? I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing this morning? And clearly I can hear above there is chat. I remember what we were doing. We were doing a challenge run. So the idea of this run is I can get up there, that we do not leave the house that we're currently in, that I'm not allowed to leave this house. I can go beneath the house, I can be underground, but I'm not allowed outside. You lost your home. Are you okay, Keeper? So chat, it's official, we're not allowed to touch grass. Oh, in Minecraft. Don't scare me like that, Keeper. Make me think some shit's happened to you. Turns out this is how Keeper's telling me that their life is in shambles and things are going bad. Your bestie killed your throat? Well, maybe back off a few inches. I'm sorry, that was a rude comment. How'd your bestie hurt your throat? You'll muzzle me? That's fair. That's fair. That's very valid. But how's everybody doing today? Have you had a good evening or morning? I don't know what time it is for all of you. No. 5:45, perfect. It's time to go to bed. $4:45. It is too early for all of you. Why are you awake? Go to sleep, chat. Vanya, what do you mean you just woke up at 5:44 p.m.? Very true. Who can't afford a house in this economy? I know that's right. 9 p.m. All right, you're in the wrong side of the world. Sleep is no longer. Vanya, I have the strictest sleep schedule. I don't know what you mean. I'm judging you for not sleeping. I sleep exactly as much as I intend to. Oh yeah, Echo. Can only afford a dollhouse. Yes, get some snackies. Thank you for going by, Keeper. I hope your stream went amazing. Enjoy your food. I've had a large glass of juice today, freshly made, so you know it's extra delicious. And I've had a Nutella and peanut butter sandwich. So make sure that all of you get your own food in you. Food's very important. Make yourself a hunt. I believe in you. You got this. Chat, one of the first things I'm going to have to figure out how to make is going to be a little underground tree farm. Today is Monday. Today is Monday the 4th. It might be different for all of you, but for me, it's Monday the 4th. How did you obtain the juicer anyways? Well, I went online and I purchased it. I'm back. Spare change to the poor? I refuse. How am I supposed to have money if I give my money away? Chat. For reals. Okay. Gene dislikes the board. Not this again. Not this again, chat. I can't dislike what I am. Actually, I can heavily dislike what I am. That's a lie. To be fair, my brokenness is mostly my own fault, chat. Hey, let me be self-loathing. Good morning, crew. But just a reminder, this will be the one ASMR stream of the week. This is due to the fact that I will be on call for work, which is going to be so annoying. What do you mean? That's why I sound different. Have you not been at one of these streams before, Lacey? Oh, no. This is one of these soft-spoken streams. Am I out of wood? Oh no, Chad, I'm out of wood. I'm already out of wood. Do I at least have dirt? We have dirt. Okay. Idea. Pulled frog punk. You want stimmies? 1 second. 1 second, chat. Alright, I'm back. You should draw Gene bald. You should. I think it'd be funny. Hello. Good morning, Necro. How you doing? That fuck-ass shirt that I ate. This is a pre-ripped one. Should I just make a stream that's just me ripping shirts? Ripping fabrics? Why am I ripping it? Because it's fun. Okay. Here's the idea, Chad. I can't go outside. But technically, this is not leaving the subterranean floor. Also, what I rip mostly is shirts that I just don't wear anymore. Whether they are a different size, they're a little worn out. So I avoid them. Welcome back. I used to just rip the shirts completely off while streaming. Because a lot of times they would be like, I had a lot of white sleep shirts that were stained. And so it really didn't matter much to rip them. Oh, I have a video of me ripping them off myself, but we're also trying not to dox myself. Okay. Only a few people have seen that video. Hopefully that works. I believe in you, tree. You can grow. Why are we meowing? Yeah. Oh, just for Keeper. Has Keeper done a redeem yet? Keeper hasn't done a redeem yet. It's fine. Night night. Enjoy your sleep, Eliza. Crow, just quit your job. I didn't say it was banned. I said I could ban it. Yeah, yeah. There you go, with the little hand motions. Oh, not this again. Why is there so much water? It's so breathing. Why is there always water? Please, I just want to dig deeper. Oh, come on. No, 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 no. Bad chumps. That one might be a little bit too far for this morning. Go raid a water temple, but I can't leave. I can't leave the underground, chat. And all I'm finding is more water. Why is there so much water? They were wanting to say a dark humor joke, but going off where it was going did not manage the vibes. Match the vibes right now. Let's not bring attention to it, please, Crow. How is there more water? How is there even more water? Keeper, if you drink water. You're right, I need to hydrate. Give me a second. It's just a black screen. Oh, it's down there. Here, we'll up the brightness a little bit for you. Where is brightness? There it is. Can you see it now? Mitchie, Mitchie, Mitchie. Mitchie, you are an incredible artist. You do such wonderful, wonderful work, and I appreciate that you did that art just for the girlies, and I know the girlies appreciate it too. You are such a wonderful, wonderful person. You're fun to hang out with, to talk to, and I know you're just so fantastic at Battlefield. I appreciate you so very, very, very much. And I hope that you've enjoyed your time you spent in this community. Because I know this community is better for you being in it. Chat, we found a cave. Oh no. This is not what I wanted. does this voice roam this earth? It just does. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, why am I in such a negative predicament right now? Did I at least get the bone I wanted? I did. Alright, we're going to try to get out of here. The unknowns throw you off. Yes, I promised Mitchie a sniper duel where we will both join a game and try to kill each other from long distances. And we'll see how well that goes. I'm actually looking forward to it. Good morning, sweet, sweet Yuki. How are you doing this morning? Mm. Well, that's good. I am doing pretty well. If I can remember where I put my tree. Here's my tree. I don't know if the tree can grow, chat. We might need to open it up to the sky more. Some of you must be Minecraft geniuses. How? Yeah, I have to make the room wider. I thought so. Let's make it a little bit wider. Yes, Vanya is a turtle. That is better. I appreciate that one. Vanya is in fact a turtle. You might be surprised, chat. I have no wood. Did you redeem? There it is. There you go. Vanya, you know you're a turtle. It's okay. It's okay to be a turtle. I hope this is enough. So if this is not enough, then I'm gonna have to find wood somewhere else. Oh, shit. Is Dara even here? Dara might be sleeping. Keeper, tell me about your stream. Oh, there's Dar. Hello, Dar. Is redeem. Oh, Vanya isn't a turtle, but a raccoon. In backwards land. Get wrecked. Crow. Hello, Nonsum. Depends on what you mean by that. So, Crow, you are absolutely wonderful. You are kind. You are lovely. You are so much fun to see in my chats. And I do really, really appreciate when I see you come by. I hope you get enjoyment out of this stream, out of all the streams I do, because you definitely deserve the enjoyment. And I'm very, very happy that you'd found my community and I found a space here. I look forward to seeing you here every time I do, and I hope you spend as much time as you can here so we get to know each other better. And I can praise you even better then. Good things will happen to you, I promise, Crow. So you be good. Mwah. Thank you so much for their team. And thank you for the follow. Tima cares for you. How you doing? And thank you for the follow, Nonsum. How are you doing? And Hashaki. I don't know how to say your name. But good morning. Oh, what an easy band, chat. What an easy band. It's 6 a.m. in the morning and I couldn't sleep. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope that you get some sleep eventually. Okay, we're gonna start cannibalizing the roof here a little bit. There we go. Good morning, Tima. Why haven't you been able to sleep? Ashaki. And they say the early bird gets the worm. That they do. Well, I'm glad I could help you out, Crow. You all need to work on your ability to sleep. You are. Yeah, what character? Hopefully a good one. There we go, chat. I can actually go explore now. As terrifying as it is, we're gonna need to find a secondary source of wind. Here we go. Sengoku. I don't know who they are, but they sound nice. I don't know if there's enough space. How are you, Tima? I'm doing very well this morning. I'm getting a little early morning stream in. I'm gonna do my last little ASMR for the week. I'll be ending stream in about an hour and a half at roughly 5:30 a.m. my time. Yes, yes. Alright, here we go. And we're gonna be doing this now. Keeping it very, very light. With that sweet southern voice. Oh, at least we found another source of dirt. That'll be nice. And hypothetically. Oh, look at this little zombie. Look at him with his pants. Yes, I am an MST. Gonna eat a bap. Eat a bap. What's a bap? Oh, kimbap. Well, that is something that's pretty tasty. Very enjoyable. He ain't got the gold, he a broke white boy. It's very true. Very true. Take a little bed rot. Ain't no problem with doing a little bed rot. What are them little fishies? Hey, yeah, we got underwater fishies, chat. Oh no. I came down here with no wood and no pickaxe. So as much as I enjoy exploring down here, oh, I had to stretch my back there for a second. Much as I enjoy exploring down here, I don't know if I'm gonna find anything that I can take back with me. Unless we get really lucky. Do not look at me, man. I'm gonna walk right by you right here. Ain't nothing back here, alright. You behave yourself. Mm-hmm. Can I do a Russian accent? Not that I know of. Haven't really tried much. Oh, yes. Minecraft can be an absolute horror story when you really look at it. Mm. Well, that ain't what I was wanting. No horror for you? Why would you want no horror? The horror's the best part. If I ain't feeling a little spooked and stressed, I'm bored. That is something that I found very interesting, chat. Can y'all explain to me why melatonin ain't legal in some places? Like, what are they worried about? You're gonna get too much sleep? It ain't a hardcore drug. It ain't much of anything, to be honest. But, I guess it's something. Vanya, careful, you're gonna scare yourself. Hmm. Stigma, more like Sigma. What are you stressed about, Keeper? What are you stressed about, Keeper? Hey, yo, chat, you don't gotta bully me like that. Chat, you ain't gotta bully me. Just 'cause I'm a little goofy guy doesn't mean you gotta bully me. Oh, no, taxes is easy. Taxes is easy with Twitch. Just wait till tax season, and you add it as a secondary income. Ain't no worry about it then. It ain't difficult at all to do. I'll walk you through that shiz. Can you OD on melatonin? I suppose you can probably OD on anything. How Twitch income works? Nah, I mean, Twitch specifically sends you an independent contractor form. And once you get the independent contractor form, you add that. It's a 1099. And then you use that as well to write off all additional expenses. Yes, it is a 1099. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll be handled by whatever system you put it into. It ain't too difficult to do. Oh, no, Kiba, you don't make much money through Twitch. And you had to do a lot more expenditures on Twitch for streaming than you've probably made, including the art, any equipment, the microphone. Each one of those are write offs. it's more likely that you'll get more money back on your taxes based on how much money you've made. At least that's how it works for me every year. Well, hello there, little man. Man tried to 360 me. You're taking it a lot more seriously than you need to be taking it. I promise you that. I promise you, it ain't as serious as you think it's gonna be. Mm. Thank you so much for the follow, and beauty. We're currently lost in my mind. Oh, hey, we just hit a follower goal. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing today? I think we're still stuck in Southern Voice. Oh, hey, we just got a raid. Well, hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name's LuckyJene. I'm a gambler, a writer, and a flirt, and you have a good day. Enjoy your raiding and running. Mm-hmm. And thank you for the follow. Greatly, greatly appreciated. What were y'all streaming? Something fun, I hope. Or are you also doing this? Oh, I love the little alien. Or are you also doing some ASMR? Then again, I guess if it was ASMR, y'all may already be passed out. Kiss for chat. I'm so lost, chat. We'll make it out of here one day. No, I don't have a gambling system in chat. Because if I did have a gambling system in chat, the people who complain that I can't see their messages currently would be even more upset. Thank you. We did hit 1,100. Very nice. What's up, Vanya? Why'd you say Jean? Don't worry, I'll figure out more ways to integrate gambling into streaming. But unfortunately, what we have currently is the best I can do. Until I figure it out. Thank you for the hydrate. Chat, I am so lost. I know there was a hole around here somewhere that I fell down. Thank you for the follow, Lost Soul. Yeah, I get that. Keep going left and I'll get out someday. You're right about that. You're right. I should just trust my instincts and keep going left. We found a dead end. Alright, chat, we're gonna keep an eye on the roof as we're heading around. Well, every time we come out here, I mean, there's always a hole somewhere. I have no torch. I do have a torch. Correction. I lied to you, Chad. I'm sorry. I have nothing to dig with, and I have no wood. I have 4 blocks, which is what I would need to make a crafting table. But we have no sticks, so I can't make a pickaxe. No wood. Okay, I was down here before. C is for chat. Who are we putting back in the basement? Oh no. Wait, are people allowed to be straight? That's crazy. Okay. This feels a little bit more familiar than what we've dealt with prior. Thank you for the lurk, Ocean. How you doing? I hope you're feeling alright. Okay, I know that ain't right. That's fair, Crow. Shoot. What am I missing? You don't have a spine. What makes you say that? Thank you for the follow, Zilla. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's your morning going? Or your evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. This just loops back around, doesn't it? See, Lacey, here's the problem with me going left. Never mind, Lacey might have been right. Hey, yo, Chad. I think we finally found it. But how you doing, Zozilla? How's your morning going? I think we found our way out. I mean, almost. This looks a lot more familiar. Always lost. It's very true. There's no reason to ever freak out. Especially if you get lost IRL. There's always a way out. As long as you don't get yourself into worse trouble. So take it slow, carefully, and you'll make your way out no matter where you're stuck. Good morning, Love Mag. How are you doing today? There's the stairs. Alright, Jet. We're finally to a place where I can go get some wood. And hopefully our underground tree is grown. have any plans for today, and thank you for the lurk jobs. You be good. Let's check on the tree. The tree's still not grown yet, chat. Here, what if we do that? A lunch date. Oh, doesn't that sound lovely? Alright, and now we feed the tree wood. There's bone. Okay, I don't think we've built out far enough yet. That's disappointing. Oh, it feels compulsory. That's no fun. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know the other party. You can be as rude as you'd like to be. Breeding all day would be lovely. Oh, how I envy you. The spirit. Did you get asked out on a first date and you're like, well, I don't really like this guy, but I guess I should go anyways. Technically, it's the third date. I feel you. Well, I hope you enjoy your bed. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like that should be enough, right? That's fair. Lacey, you could be ace. There's no problem with being ace. Well, then you're choosy or picky, and that's okay too. Oh, I feel you, Tima. No, relax, take it easy. Ain't no reason you gotta be doing anything today. Well, you know, that could be the case too. Not a bad thing. It's good to know what you are, how it makes you feel. I could also be underneath the same category, Lacey. Woo. Exactly. Don't you worry, I will. Nah, well, I'm already impregned apparently, so I don't really need to worry about it. Welcome back. There's an impreg emo. It's not me just saying it out of nowhere. I swear. Who knows? Everybody in chat claims to be the father. Well, good, Spell. You're supposed to be sleeping. Okay, chat, here we go. We're gonna see if we can make this work. There should be no reason why this doesn't grow now, right? It won't grow. I have never made a tree successfully grow indoors. I can't go outdoors though. Not enough height. But there's all the height. Oak would grow. Grow, 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 grow. Mm. Chat, it's 4:30. Time has passed. Thank you, Bud Goose. I enjoy your name. How are you doing? What are you sitting at me for? Oh, PST represent. Got you. I thought you were saying psst, as in you're trying to get my attention. I'm doing very, very well this morning. Enjoying this week's last ASMR because I go on call, so I have to do normal streams I can interrupt. I don't like ignoring anybody, it's never my intent. There can just be so many of you sometimes, it's hard to keep track of everyone. Oh, you like it when I ignore you. See, I'm just bad at reading chat. It's okay, though. I don't need to be good at reading. Fair enough. It's pretty when I step on it. Keeper tried to get me killed, chat. Keeper tried to get me killed, chat. Everybody, point at Keeper. And remind them of the threat they posed. I'm kidding, Keeper. You know. I would never send hate to your Twitch Minecraft integration win. What do you mean Twitch Minecraft integration? There's no way that's a thing. Oh. Well, come back when it's your birthday and I'll sing you happy birthday. What a Leo. God, this is pretty. This is so pretty. I love this subterranean gardens. I should build a little house here. Maybe this is where we'll live. Once the oak grows. This is so satisfying. Hydrate, thank you, thank you. Cheers. I'm not bald. Why am I being accused of being bald? That's such a weird thing to bring out of nowhere. Sorry, Jazz, I had to figure out that I'm actually bald. Isabella, Isabella, you are such a good girl. Always such a good girl. Thank you so much for that, Redeem. I am bald? Is that so? You hate my hair. Oh, I was just growing it out. Don't eat my hair. I need to get my bisexual disaster mullet back. Funsies, I'm assuming. Why wouldn't you want to write? Well, don't do that. Have you thought about not doing that? I know you want my mullet back. No, I'll just have to wait for it. Let's go check on the oak tree. Maybe it's grown a little bit. No, but the berry bushes have. So at least we're good on food. I may not have thought this through, chat. Mwah. 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 And stretch. There we go. We don't have any bone. You had AirPods at full volume. Well, you redeemed stretch. Whose fault is that? Please eat some food, Crow. Yes, Vanya. What's up? What do you mean, Vanya? I'm not moaning. This damn tree hates me. was definitely not moaning. Oh, interesting. Good point. It's kind of odd. I mean, I see. Oh god, chat. Get rid of education. We don't need the Big Mac. No more education so the Big Mac dies. Enjoy your sleeping. Oh no, the Big Mac is the worst burger of all time. ASMR burger rant. Let's go. The burger. 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Alvania, lovely, lovely raccoon. You know you are incredible. You are such a key member of this community that without you, we would not be doing as well as we are. You are entertaining, you're funny, you're adorable. You just are so wonderful. And I know you doubt it sometimes, but I really wish you'd see the things I see in you. Because I really, really do appreciate you, Vanya. My lovely raccoon. You are amazing. And there are so many here who love you so very much. Please, please keep being you. Mwah. And thank you for the follow. I must sleep yet. Alright, so that music is too loud. Where's my music? There's my peaceful day. Anyways, so the Big Mac, here's why the Big Mac is garbage, chat. Step 1, 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. You'll notice something missing from that burger. Tomatoes. What would have given it the juiciness and the change in the burger texture that it needed? I know some people don't like tomatoes, so maybe this is a moot point. But I believe that would have at least made the burgers bearable. Next, 2 all beef patties. That's it. There are 3 layers of bread on the sandwich, where there's 2 separate sandwiches kept together by a single in-between layer, with double the lettuce, double the onions, double the sauce, to the point that the proportions of sauce and lettuce compared to the meat is just awful. So awful. They could take out the middle layer of bread and do a normal double cheeseburger and this would be great. But with what is on it right now is just so badly proportioned that it makes the sandwich kind of pointless to have. Cannot stand the Big Mac. And for it being the most iconic burger, having one of the least amount of meat proportions to bread really shows you how little they value the burger that they sell. If anything, the McDouble should be the iconic burger of McDonald's. Very simple. Meat, cheese, ketchup, rehydrated onions, and mustard. A plain, simple burger for a place known to be burgers. And if you want to go with a fancy burger, well then why don't we make it the double quarter pounder, where it has fresh meat, a better meat patty. Overall, the quality's just improved. None of this weird gimmicky sauce. Because, by the way, the Big Mac is the only one with that weird gimmicky sauce. It's not iconic if it's the only one like it. Awful, awful burger. Anyway, sorry. I'm trying to get the most sleep. Well, I hope you enjoy your sleep. I have an audio where I crash out about the Big Mac. So, sing any song. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. That is one of my favorite songs. And thank you for the follow, Silas. Now, are you a fan of lads? Thank you for the follow, Vinny. Forget I was supposed to get a pickaxe, comrade. Good morning, comrade. People just like chill vibes. Oh, are you not doing well, Crow? Hello, little alien. It's been a little bit. How's the anime convention been? Oh, you just got home? Congratulations. Yes, please, make sure you take care of yourselves, chat. Your health is of utmost importance to me. After all, what am I without you? Right. Really? You have a crazy story to tell me. Please tell me about it. Alright, we're looking for coal next. Time to cause some environmental pollution, chat. Do not drink coffee on an empty stomach. Of course, it's going to make you nauseous, sweetie. You be careful and take care of yourself, okay? Your friend is listening. Hello, little alien's friend. Did you know that you can make them melt if you call them bunny properly? It does. Emma, do you ever have stomach issues with coffee? Not everyone will have stomach issues with coffee. Oh god, I do hate the heat. That southern heat can be quite awful. Although, you know what I loved? The heat in North Carolina was always what I enjoyed. Because it never got too bad. And you get this dry heat, cause all of the electrons to go a little wild. And you get the dry lightning, the dry thunder. Thank you, Real Slim Shady. I appreciate you standing up and following. Oh, hello, Real Slim Shady. Please stand up. I said, will the Real Slim Shady please stand up? I think I'll have a problem here. Mm-hmm. You knocked over the bike. Oh, I cannot believe you knocked over the bike. Oh, little alien, are you okay? How's your leg doing? I'm sorry, my first instinct was, oh my god, you hurt the bike. Not, oh my god, you got hurt. But I hope you're okay. If I were a rich man, thank you for the lark. See, I would have all the money in the world if I was a wealthy man. I've had a few musicals in my mind. Oh, and oxytocin. Oxytocin is such a great chemical. Make sure to hug lots of people. And here's a fun little fact. Did you know oxytocin is triggered with lovemaking between loving partners, hugs, direct eye contact, and nipple clamps? Hey, it's true. And the reason I know this is because, there's a comic out there. Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal is one of my favorite little webcomics. It's been going for years, and he uploads a new comic every single day, which is insane. And he makes a lot of really, really nerdy comics. One of those was about a woman who's like, I hate how everybody calls oxytocin the love chemical. Well, there's other things that trigger it. And he goes, okay, then what would you call it if you were to write a paper? And then the next panel is her at a science symposium doing a speech called Oxytocin, the Nipple Clamp Hormone. Why are we so quiet? Because we're doing ASMR today. I'm sorry, am I too quiet? It's true. That's true. Oh, I bet. Skeleton war, skeleton war, skeleton war, skeleton war. Oh. Did you make some good cash, though, little alien? No. I'm so sorry. I can imagine those events must be horrible to work. What happened? You can always tell me about it later if you want. I won't be around. Oh, what's wrong, sweetie? Why are you pissed? Did something happen? Can we get a lovely little shout out? Vanya? Or Cornea? For Demon Slayer movie, that would be fun. Your PayPal card got blocked. Oh no. Why did that happen? I'm sorry to hear that. Chat, I found a mine. Chat, I found a mine. Mine shaft. Look at this, chat. We have solved our wood needs. Well, Cornea, I hope you can be here. And I hope you can relax while you're here. Oh, well, I hope your friend likes me. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ghost hugs. That's true, you can't feel ghost hugs, but they're there. I'll give you all a lovely little hug. Little alien, what was the first stream you ever saw me doing if you don't like ASMR? Because I could have sworn most people found me from ASMR. Here we go. Little alien. Lacey. Lacey, sweetie. What is your preferred pronouns? And thank you so much for the follow, Firehawk. Sheer. Alright, thank you. Lacey. You have been a wonderful addition to this community. I've enjoyed just sitting here, watching the way you're so kind and caring to other people in chat, and it's been so lovely to see. I know this community hasn't existed for a long time, but I do really, really appreciate having you in it. With the time that you spent here, the space has already felt a little bit better. And every second you spend here makes it that much more better. You're kind, caring, and very entertaining. And I really, really do appreciate you. I'm very excited to see you grow in this space and to see how you are as this space grows. I really, really do appreciate you. You deserve all the best in this world. And I know if you act like you do here, in public spaces, you will get all you deserve. Thank you so much for the redeem, Lacey, and for being as wonderful as you are. Mwah. Mwah. Chad, I just heard a crazy noise. Mwah. There you go, Crow. You should probably swoon. I mean, if you want me to make you swoon, that's a different redeem, which I don't have. Really? You know, I've been loving that. Twitch has been kinder to me lately, sending me out to more lovely people. It's been so nice. Yeah. You're stealing my hoodies? Please don't. I only have like 3 hoodies, and one of the hoodies, the neck's already partially ripped on. You can have my ripped neck one. Oh, I got so distracted. What was I doing, chat? But yes, Twitch has been very kind to me lately, showing me to more lovely, lovely people. And we've had some nice growth. Slow, steady, but nice. Good morning, Kai. How are you doing today? I'm feeling very chill today. You're getting embarrassed. Oh, cutie. How's your day going, Kai? No, that is true. We do a lot of 7 days here. I am planning on doing a big 7 days collab. I haven't played any of the horror mods, though I have been meaning to. Oh, I saw that, yeah. I'm not particularly interested in that. Are they? I saw one that used the audio from a scroll stapler, where it goes, God is here, where God is coming. And that looks terrifying. You've thrown your phone. Chat, don't throw your phone. How are you going to hang out with me and watch my streams if you throw your phone? Be more kind to your electronics, and they'll be kind to you. Mm. I don't remember why I went down. Oh, chat, we went down there for coal. I found coal. Never mind, we're good. I achieved one. Oh, hello there. Well, to be fair, you are throwing it against the wall. I would hit back if I was your phone. Yeah, see, 52 card pickup isn't as fun when you don't have somebody willing to pick it up. Like, hey, we're gonna play 52 card pickup. You throw the deck and you're just like, ah, shit, now I gotta pick up the cards. Alright, chat, we're gonna see if our little tree experiment has worked yet. And if it hasn't worked out, wow. Grow. 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 It won't work, chat. No matter what I do, that stupid tree doesn't want to grow. Why does the tree hate me, chat? Grovel a bit. Please, dear, sweet tree, grow. Grow into the sky so that I can harvest you and use you for appliances. Please, tree. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted. Goodbye, little skeleton. Oh, didn't work. Mm. Mm. I will never learn how to grow indoor trees. All I want is an indoor tree. Why won't you grow? The ceiling's too close? Damn it. Oh, Keeper. Hi, Keeper, sweetie. Keeper, you wonderful, wonderful person, you. You are such an absolute incredible streamer. You make content that's so enjoyable, and I love to see you experiment with new things. Not only that, you're a fantastic parent as well, and I know you are trying your best in every situation. And as long as you keep going and you keep trying, Things will pay off for you in the end, I promise. You are lovely, so kind, caring, and so beloved here. I do truly, truly appreciate you, Keeper. Thank you so much for the redeem. Don't you be crying. Are we at a club or are we at home? And are they male or female? To be fair, it should be the same. If we're at a bar or something, I put my hand over the drink, and then I forget that it's not my drink, and then I take a sip from it, realize I didn't order this, and go, oh, right, I'm holding this for somebody. And then I probably order them a new drink, and I finish theirs while holding my hand over the top of their new one. Yes. Free. Free is my drink of choice. That's fair. But, thank you for the hydrate, Zero. Lovely to see you here, Zero. I still like your name a lot. Your name feels very superhero-y. If I pick a drink for myself, like something to enjoy, I usually like something with a more like sour, sweet taste to it. I'm not big on like too of smoky drinks, but there is a place in Denver, which chat you already know I'm near Denver, so that's no spoilers. Called the Welton Room. I do suggest everybody go there at some point in time. It is a little what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bar, but it is like in a hotel, and they do very fancy drinks, like Instagram drinks, with smoke and dry ice and all sorts of things. My pickaxe, bro. Yes, no, the reason why I do bring up the fact that I live in Denver is because I do smoke. So I do want people to be like, why is Gene getting high? Let's ban him. No, no, no. I can occasionally consume. I actually am quitting smoking, but I'm going fully to edibles. Like, yes, Gene can legally do this. He's not, fucking up. I prefer bars and pubs. I'm not much of a club goer. I have been to some clubs, but maybe if I had the right person to go with. Also, I don't know how to dance in a club. The only kind of dancing I can do is swing dancing. And of course slow dancing, but everybody can slow dance. Grab the hips, sway side to side. And there you go. Yeah, and I don't go out to meet people. Alright, you have a good one, Timo. Have a good day. Slow dancing is so easy. Alcohol is a boomer scam for millennials. That's a take. Well, little alien, you can come slow dance with me, okay? That's gotta be deep enough, right? 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. There's no way that's not deep enough. Of course, I'm not very good at swing dancing. I can do some basics. But, Goose, I would love if you could teach me just a little bit more. Walk me through it slowly and show me what you know. And we can make a fool of ourselves together. How's that sound? Yay! That means I don't have to touch grass myself. So dancing with you would fix the day. No, little alien, that's really sweet. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your auntie, but she did what? How did she do that? Sorry. I didn't mean to, laugh that darkly. I know I have a villain's laugh. Oh, I should have done some villain voices for my voice acting demo. Oh, I can't wait till I get to publish my voice acting demo. The voice acting demo will be posted this week, by the way. Has been professionally edited. And I'm looking forward to hyping up the man who wrote a lot of the scripts for me and did all the editing. He did an amazing job. I did not. What is a Miffy? I hope you're doing well outside, Cornea. Pet your dog for me. One second, I'm just gonna. Okay, we're good. I just think it's so funny, the idea that she almost tore her hamstring while slow dancing. How bad are you at slow dancing that something like that happens? Oh, I'll have to check it out. I'm being eaten up. That's crazy. Don't eat me. I'm already concerned and you haven't even told me how often you get hurt. To be fair, chat, though, I have a dark bruise on my knee that I'm still not 100% sure where it came from. My grandmother is something else. It's good to have interesting family, isn't it? I think so, at least. Okay. Now the torches. Are you an especially calm person? Yeah, give me a report. What is the thing that I can repair shields with? I know there's like a wheel that you can craft to repair things with? Or can I only find that out in the wild? Chad, do you know? Oh, by the way, we're gonna get some help setting up my 3DO mic by an incredible, lovely ASM artist who you all may know is walking their dog right now. So make sure you thank them whenever you see them, because we're gonna have really cool audio shit soon. And Phil. Mm, really? No, no. He stubbed my toe 3 times. I'll have the stairs past your knee and hit my head on a shelf. Are you doing okay, Crow? Gotta be careful. Okay, I need this. You're very clumsy. That's fair. Navani, I've never said any such thing. You're a friend of mine. Of course I want to cuddle you. Why would I not? Oh no, I have to push that wall out, don't I? This is fine, right? Mm. Alright, Chad, the goal is now to find skeletons. If I can find some skeletons. Mm. The cuddle circle cold. How could I say what? I say a lot of things. What did I say this time? I need more wood. Am I out of wood? I do. I do. You'd be surprised how talented I am at just yapping. Honestly, half the things I say, I don't know what I've said. I always want to cuddle. I want to cuddle anybody. Oh, Banks. Legitimately, it's Banks. We'll see if that grows. Oh, little alien. The praise. Dear, sweet little alien. You are such a fantastic cosplayer, and your voice is utterly divine. The outfits you make and the work you do with makeup is so incredibly transformative. It is just amazing. And on top of that, you are lovely, and you are as lovely as you are kind. You're a person I do truly enjoy talking to, and who I've been happy to say I get to know. As so many here, you are a lovely addition to this community, and I know you've made such a good impression on people. I hope that you're able to achieve all of your dreams, and I'm really, really proud of you for taking the time off that you needed before going to school, and now going out, following a passion, and setting yourself on a really good trajectory. You're going to do incredible things, and I'm just excited that I get to see it. So thank you so much for the redeem, little alien. I do really, really appreciate you. Oh, that's insane, Lost. I don't know why they thought it was a glitch. It wasn't a glitch. You told Chase Bank that you had $70,000 or $700,000. And they believed you. You lied to a bank. I don't know what they thought was going to happen. I'm AI. That's true, Chad. I'm not real. Don't eat my arm. Please don't eat my arm. I need that. I need that to live. You'd be surprised, but my arm is used for feeding me and playing the games. You know you're trying to rob J.B. Morgan Chase. It's true. Honestly, it'd make a lot more sense to just try to rob the bank instead of, trying to do a digital fraud thing. But it clearly shows that they don't understand how the digital fraud works. No questions, only answers. Yes. Yes is the answer to your question. I don't know what the question is, but the answer is yes. What's everybody's type? Oh. I don't have one type. I like all sorts of body types, all sorts of passions. But I think what attracts me most to a person is what they like to do. To see them put effort into their life. Any sort of passion they have makes me more passionate about them. That could be someone who's really into bodybuilding or someone who's into music or art. But I'm attracted to what people do and the way they treat others more than I'm attracted to their physicalness, their physicality. Don't get me wrong. There are so many people who I will look at an instant and be like, wow, hot. But I think that goes for everyone. The way a person looks and puts effort into their lives is a lot different than the person who puts no effort in their lives and just lets time pass. Whether you are overweight, skinny, muscular, the ugliness that you keep inside will show on your face. And so the body type doesn't matter, they can still be gorgeous. And it's very true. I mean, have you ever seen the people who are like self-proclaimed incels and who only view people based on what they can do for them? They tend to be a lot uglier than the ones who are, lifelong virgins. Also, Chet, I have no shield. I forgot to get a shield. I'm a little panicked right now. But Dosa, I barked for everybody. There are many. Of course, wear yourself a turtleneck. We didn't get any bone chat, but it is time for stream to come to an end, unfortunately. We'll need to find somebody who is just as relaxing as I am to make sure everything stays the same vibes. Well, this is a problem. No. Duh, you know it's not my fault. You know, Dar, if I could, I'd stay here all day. But I can't. So let's see if we can find somebody who's currently live. Give me just a little second here. I unfortunately don't make money from streaming enough to make up for what I make at work, so it's not going to be able to happen yet. Alright, let's see who we have. No, they're cute. Let's see, do we have any relaxing ASMR gaming? No. And I really don't have a lot of time to look around too much. Alright, chat. You know what that means? We gotta raid. We're gonna have to raid into Shrimpies. We're gonna raid into Shrimps. I do think this is gonna be funny. Y'all copy that raid message. Say hello to the shrimp for me. If you see any shrimp, tell them I love them. Oh my god, chat, there's so many shrimp today. There are 3 shrimp on the screen, and there are 5 snails. Oh, that's crazy. But yes, make sure you take your meds if you haven't taken them yet. Make sure you've had a good day. Please copy and paste the little raid message. And I will see you all later. Remember, 4 p.m. MST. Mwah. Mwah.